Hey, Greg, welcome back to the show.
Thank you, Tom. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. It's great to have you back.
Yes,
So,
Tom, you probably didn't expect to see me back so soon.
yeah, it's great to have you, though. So, we definitely had a lot of fun the first time on episode 75, talking about, writing for Hollywood and blogging and some other great stuff you're doing. If you've listened to episode 75, everyone will know that you're a produced television writer, and you also step in front of the camera and host as well. And your book, The Pink Marine, came out in November 2015. And since then, you've had kind of a pretty wild experience with your publisher. So without naming names or anything, can you tell us about that story of kind of what happened?
I will. And my agent and I agreed we don't actually. We've never named Tim's name in a single interview or a single podcast of all the ones I've done, because we're not going to make him famous. There are some bad people out there. And from every piece I've done, I'm not transparent about it at all. He's a bad person. Legitimate publisher, 20 years in the business. When the offer came in to my agent last year, her hesitation was that he had switched publishing houses 4 times in his 20-year career. They'd actually done a book together, so she knew she had a pretty pleasant working experience. That was just her only caution. So as we shopped the book around to the rest of the houses, we had his offer and we shopped around. We were close to signing with another big house. They had one line in their letter that made us veer back towards the guy that we eventually went with. And that one line was, "We love his voice. We love this story. We're just concerned that the book is going to get lost on our list for next year." And that was a red flag to me. And I said, I don't want to be lost on any list. This other guy hasn't said that, and he's planning on this big push. So I went with him, and that was in April. So quick timeline. My first question to him, by the way, and this was really important down the road. My first question when he called me personally was, I asked him, how much of an edit do you see? Because I certainly didn't want to rewrite. I knew the book was good. My editor, Nicole Klungel, some of your listeners probably know her work. She's top notch. I knew it didn't need a rewrite. It's great to kind of know that. And as you know, I'm a professional writer, so I brought it up to a place pretty good. His answer was no edit whatsoever. So that made me feel great in that there wouldn't be a lag in getting the book out to market. It also came in handy later when I disassociated with him, because he had no imprint on the book whatsoever artistically. And that's important. So the path for those few months that we had together started out great. Went back and forth. Then I got the galleys, and they were horrible. The font was bad. The cover was a mess. You've seen the cover. That's one of my favorite things about the entire book is the cover. You can actually judge my book by its cover. So the first galleys that I got, I sent back with notes all over it, like I was giving notes on a script. Change this, move this, shift this over, delete this, move this up to the right, hate this, scratch this, move this up, and sent him off. And he wrote back, "Oh, no, you don't get any input in this. You're just going to get a book on your doorstep one day." And I got my agent involved, and no. I took over the design of the book back from then. He clearly didn't have the taste level that I was going to require, and we just made that happen. So we bulldozed through that. And then my agent got wise that he was not the right publisher when the book came out. He had neglected to have his cover designer, which he insisted using on top of my cover, purchase the high-res image that was used for my cover. So the cover was blurry. Norman Lear writes the foreword. He called me, why is my name blurry? People asking me, why is my name blurry? And so that was when my agent was like, I think we have a problem here. So between November and the middle of December, he never got an ebook out. So I was going on national television shows and CNN and Huffington Post Live, and the show that I'm on for Food Network feeds into 70 million households. My credit on the show reads author and home cook. Easy to Google Greg White author and find my one book, and there's no ebook to download. He had no reason, no excuse not to have it. So that was just another log on the fire that he eventually struck the match and lit. Then mid-December, I went to New York to do some press and some Food Network stuff, and I met with Ingram, my book distributor. We'd become friends along the way. They're huge Food Network fans. Hey, that comes in handy. And I really loved my rep there, Justine Bilo, and we had lunch, and I just very privately asked her, look, if I happen to write another book and I were to form my own imprint, would you publish it? And she, not meaning that I didn't allude to the fact that I was going to cancel this book. And she said, we'll publish anything that you write. So I also met with a new agent in New York, and he said, oh, I hate that your book is with this guy because he ruins people's lives. That's all he said. He ruins people's lives. I left the meeting a little worried and concerned, but I thought, well, my book's out. It's going to be fine. But it was clear that I had to cancel it. December, say the 15th, my agent contacted the publisher, told him that I wanted to cancel the book. He said, no way. There was no way he was going to lose this book. Because of my profile, I'd ruin him everywhere and he'd be laughed out of the business. Well, fact is, he shouldn't be in the business because come January 7th, after the Christmas break and my vacation, I was going to get a lawyer when I had a massive heart attack. Regular afternoon, about 5 p.m., thought maybe I'd had food poisoning in the day. And my agent happened to call me when I was in the ER as I was going into surgery, and she heard beeping and other noises. And she's like, what's all that noise? And I said, it's machines. I'm in the hospital. I've had a heart attack. And the doctor said it was due to stress. Sorry, I had to move because someone in the alley was making noise. The doctor said that my heart attack was related to stress and that I had to get rid of all the stress factors in my life. So from the ER on the way to surgery, I fired off an email to the publisher, and it was really clear and really simple. Contract just got canceled. And my agent was copied. They took it from there. And Tom, I can't believe how fortunate I am, not only to survive the heart attack. I'm doing well, by the way. Just had 3 stents put in. That was in January. Good to go. I didn't have to get a lawyer because I had a heart attack. So probably the only good news about that heart attack, it saved me a bill that probably would have given me a heart attack when I opened it from a lawyer. So it was actually a clean break. I've never spoken to him again. He had to return all the files. I contacted Ingram, and they walked me through the steps. I also contacted Jane Friedman. I think you and I talked about how helpful she was in my initial publishing efforts. I contacted Jane Friedman, and she gave me some great guidance. So I legally formed an imprint. It's called About Face Books, and it's a military move, About Face, obviously. And Facebook is a very well-known word in our language now, so I took advantage of that. So About Face Books, and I called Ingram. We had the book back on the market with no one ever really knowing that switched. There's a few copies on Amazon of his old book, but he has no right to it. The ebook was out before I had my new hardcover and paperback out. I have no idea why he could never get the ebook out. It took me 2 days. It was a simple thing. I relied on designers. Jason Story is a great cover designer. I don't know if you know him, but I loved his graphics, and he redid the cover with the right image and with the pink marine is actually legible. And that part was seamless. The book sold to Audible. I went in, I had to audition to read my book. I was happy to do it, and even happier when I got the job. So I went in and recorded it, which is kind of funny because I was still recovering from the heart attack when it was time to go in the studio, and I was not able to, I didn't have a lot of stamina yet, but Marines, as you know from my book, the whole mission of the book is that we take one step further. And you and I talked about that I used the Marine Corps principles to finish the writing the book. And when I was bored and tired, not bored, but when I was tired and couldn't go on, I went one more step and wrote more, just like I learned in the Marine Corps. So the same thing for getting ready for the Audible. I thought, how am I going to talk for 6 hours in a recording booth when I'm, just barely off of all these machines and medications? But I gave it the old Marine Corps gung-ho, hoorah, and made it through, and they never knew. I didn't want to lose that job because, as you know, recording your book is a SAG job, a Screen Actors Guild job. I got paid to do it.
Mm-hmm. Awesome.
Well,
that's a wild story, right? And so I want to kind of share some principles behind what you went through, right? And so our audience can learn from that. So one of the things I think is really relevant about the story is that, like, you were on like CNN and like, you had so much media and publicity around your book, right? But, because your book wasn't available on ebook format, like on Amazon Kindle and so forth, you missed out on like this huge opportunity for new readers, right?
People have to push that button. They're ready now.
Exactly. Right. So it's, it's just really clear to me that it's a good lesson to learn for people. Like, you have to have your book distributed, especially if you're going to do marketing. Like, if you're going to do advertising for your book, promotions, PR, like, you have to have it available in ebook. You got to have a paperback. Audiobook is a really good idea as well. And so by lacking that distribution, you missed out on a big opportunity in the market. And that's obviously, a mistake that a lot of other people can learn from. Like, don't let that happen to you.
Yeah, my agent estimated in that month of December, we missed out on 15,000 ebook downloads.
Right. That's huge, right?
And you can't re-get that traffic. Sure, the interviews that I did are on my website. And people are welcome to find that then, but that'll never capture the number of the people that were watching it live.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah.
I think, did you and I talk about one of the big important lessons that I learned when I first started writing for Hollywood? Oh, update, by the way, I started writing the pilot for the adaptation of Pink Marine into the hour-long television show. It's optioned for television. So we just started that, my partner and I, 2 weeks ago. And obviously we're off for this week, and then we'll pick it back up next week. So we're excited about that. We are writing from a really strong, approved outline. That, just like a book, we're always write from an outline, know where you're going. So we have for an hour-long script, it's about anywhere from 58 to 65 pages, I figure. The outline alone is 25 pages. But anyway, yes, like I talked about earlier about writing for television, the business side needs just as much energy as the creative side. And boy, am I learning that lesson about the book business too. You have to, just like you said, you have to have your ducks in a row. You have to be ready for publication.
Absolutely. Yeah. So what are some other lessons you learned from this experience?
I think for sure that I love the self-publishing route over the traditional publishing house. 5 years ago, self-publishing was a scar. Now it's a beautiful tattoo. If you look at the journey of self-publishing and just the reputation, when I was growing up, I knew of the big publishing houses. So I just figured that when I was ready to write a book, a big publishing house would be the perfect place to go. And while the publisher that I was with had been at big publishing houses, he wasn't at the time that he did my book. He had launched a smaller house. However, I still thought that I needed that no matter what it was. I wasn't entertaining self-publishing in any way just last year. And, I got the contract just like everybody else does from the publishing house. You see that you're going to get 8% of sales and different things. You're making about 80 cents a book. And then once I realized that self-publishing was going to be the way I could. I mean, by the way, after I had the heart attack, my agent and I had a conversation. She could have revisited the other houses that were interested. But I was like, no. I'm doing it myself. I've learned so much. I've got a billion more things to learn. I'm that guy that had the heart attack putting this book out. But I learned enough to know that I'd much rather make $5 a book than 80 cents a book. So once I put it out myself, so biggest lesson for me is don't rely on a traditional publisher just because you think that's the way to go and that's the best way. Hey, it may be a great way to go. If you're a big author, you have a long contract. Actually, I'm going to take that back. If I was a really successful author with a good reputation, the last thing I'd do is anything but self-publish. I've got a name, self-publish.
Absolutely. Because for example, like when you were on, CNN and all these different networks doing your PR campaign, right? Like it didn't matter who your publisher was, right? You would have gotten booked on those interviews just the same. You would have gotten just as much traffic and sales from those interviews. No one cares who your publisher is at that point. And so if you can make $5 per ebook versus 80 cents, it just makes a lot more sense financially for sure.
It really does. And the tangential element of publishing your own book is the level not just of involvement that you have, but control and input. So I know exactly where the book is selling, when the book is selling. I have proper authority to reach out to bookstores. I do it all the time. Authors work just as hard as their publishers, just as hard as their agents. We'd be stupid not to. We have to. But being the publisher of my book, I'm able to reach out. I made the same deal with Ingram that he had. It's a print on demand, fully returnable book. I have to pay for the returns, but I also get to see how many ordered, where it goes. Just like anybody else, I don't know exactly what store orders what, but I have a good idea. I think I'm going corporately into Barnes & Noble. I was trading emails with Shirley there. You may know her from the small press division. She's wonderful. And I think they had accidentally sent it to the wrong department, but they're interested in doing it. The fact that we get to control and input, hey, I can play with my price.
Yeah, exactly.
And why not do that? I don't know if you've advised this, but one of the things that, you can play with your ebook price, put it at, mine's usually at $9.99, put it at $7.99 sometimes. Black Friday's coming up. I might slash it to $6.99 because I'm not going to be an Amazon Black Friday sale, but I can look like I am.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, this is the great thing about being the publisher is that you can test pricing, you can test marketing, you can test everything. You can see what works, right? You can see if, the Today Show drives sales or if the podcast drives sales, or you can see like the immediate results because you have that live sales reporting.
Yeah, it really is something that I didn't think was possible for me. I didn't know that I was eligible to do all that, and everybody is.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. So let's talk a little bit about kind of the red flags to avoid, because we've had a lot of listeners talk about, they want to find a publisher. We've had lots of people write in saying that they got scammed or that they overpaid or, they just had bad experiences like you have, right? And so, looking back, what were like the key warning signs that you saw with that particular publisher that gave you caution looking back on in the future? If that happened again, you would be like, well, I need to change my mind here.
One, the percentage of profits, that is negotiable. When he first sent the contract, he said this percentage is non-negotiable. It's negotiable. We actually did get it 2% higher back when my agent first did it. So that's very negotiable. Don't let them hardball you on that. And also make sure that you do have input and final say in your cover, unless you're not an artistic person and you really are okay with that being someone else's vision. But usually most authors are artists in their own way, where we craft words. So definitely make sure that you get cover approval. I did not know to ask for that. Mm-hmm. Can you imagine just getting your book on your door?
Right, just some really ugly book cover, and you're like, what is this?
Yeah.
This isn't what I wanted.
And then, I think that contract is the most important thing. First and foremost, what my lawyer said back when I thought I was going to have to get a lawyer, he said something that was really important, and I'd never heard it before, and apparently he says it all the time. Every contract can be broken. So while I was freaking out in September and October and November over the fact that I'd signed a contract and I saw all these red flags, I thought it was going to be really difficult to get out. I'm not happy that I had a heart attack to get out of it, but I just was joking about the lawyer bill. I would have much rather had a lawyer bill than a heart attack. But the biggest red flag is just making sure that contract is as favorable to you as possible. If you're using an agent, your agent is going to fight for you.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Yeah. I mean, it's a good point. Like, like your attorney said, basically like every contract is breakable, right? Like, that's good to know, right? Because my kind of motto in business around contracts has been that, if someone's going to screw you over or rip you off, the contract's not going to protect you, right? Like the contract can't protect you when you're doing business with bad people who do bad things, right? And so in my experience, like the kind of the point of the contract, like the main like tangible benefit in your day-to-day life is that it helps you really get clear on what is this relationships that we're entering into here. You know, who's going to do what, who's responsible for what, how is it going to look, right? And so, you know, kind of the worst case scenario is that you're going to go to court and have an attorney and you know, do a lawsuit. Like that's the worst case scenario for a contract. So if you're planning for that from the beginning, in my experience, you're kind of like planning up to fail, because if you're doing business with people you don't trust, you know, the contract's just not going to save you from that.
And the good thing is that we live in the Google world. And had I had a crystal ball, I would have Googled the things that I did later. So while I was recovering in the hospital, my other half, who, as you know, does a lot of my marketing, he was obviously quite concerned, and he was Googling a lot about this publisher. And it turns out he had an author last year that committed suicide. Now that was in the New York Times. You would think that, and that's what that agent meant by he ruins lives. He was speaking of that poor author who didn't make it. But, you know, and by the way, I didn't have to have that discussion with my publisher. If he had given me any hassle about it, I would have easily brought that up and said, hey, you had that author that committed suicide. He left his suicide note on top of his manuscript. So, and I feel it. I get it. I know what he was going through.
That's crazy.
So definitely Google your publisher, Google those companies, because there's going to be some feedback. If some rinky-dink publishing house is trying to charge you, you know, this happens all the time. Say, for $2,500, we can publish your book and bring it to market and get it in all the stores. They can't, but you can probably find somebody else that they've scammed who's blogged about it or talked about it with someone else.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's another great lesson, right? So do your research, right? If you're going to pay people money, if you're going to invest in a business relationship, if you're going to give the rights to your book to someone, right, you should Google them, find out what's going on online, find out if there are reviews, check the Better Business Bureau, call references, right? It's called due diligence. And it's, you know, sometimes we get so excited about, you know, getting our project finally published that we, you know, kind of overlook all the warning signs, but it's really crucial you take a step back and really do that research.
Yeah, and just like we were just talking about, you know, I thought that I needed a traditional publisher, so I certainly thought that I could trust that traditional publisher, you know, and yeah, don't trust anybody.
Yeah, trust but verify. That's a good quote.
And you know, communication. You've got good relationships with people. Look, this is my second time having a conversation with you. You wouldn't have had me back on the show did we not have a good conversation the first time. I wouldn't have wanted to come back on the show if we didn't have value. But you're really easy to connect with, and you're honest. You've had a podcast for a long time. It's easy to find out a lot about you.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, that's one of the things I've tried to kind of embody in business is, you know, first of all, only hang out with people and work with people that I trust, right? So if I don't trust them, I know my audience isn't going to trust them, right? And then at the same time, like, you know, be someone in business that can be trusted. So, you know, do what you say you're going to do and honor your contracts, honor your agreements, you know, show up when you say you're going to show up. You know, it's tough sometimes. Like, you know, if you're having a heart attack, if you're sick, if you're having a bad day, you know, you can feel like ditching the appointment or, you know, saying, oh, you know, I'm too busy for Greg today. You know, honestly, that thought went through my head before the interview because I'm having kind of a tough day over here. But at the same time, it's like you have to kind of show up in business and be the kind of person you want to do business with, because that's how you attract the right people into your life.
Right. We almost did this interview from a car because I had to drive an hour north. I'm flying for Thanksgiving to a snowy area in a small plane, but I was fully ready to do this in a car because we were trying to beat some snowy weather, but it passed and we're fine. But the other thing I wanted to say that's related to that as well is that it's already your story that you're writing and that you're sharing. So treat it like a child and protect it and get it out there in the best way possible. And I'm so happy to learn that self-publishing is the way that it is today.
Absolutely. I totally agree with that. You know, it's amazing to me, like how great the copyright law here is in the US. Like as a copyright owner, when you write a book, you own the copyright. Like we are so well protected in our country as that intellectual property owner. And it's just still amazing to me that, you know, traditional publishing contracts is like you're giving the rights away for your book for life. And most of these contracts for like 8%. And to me, it's just crazy. You know, it's crazy to have this like such valuable asset that's so well protected by law and just give it away.
And also, to speak about contract, the other thing that I didn't like about the contract was I had to give him the option to my next book. And I was able to strike that language because I didn't want to give him that. Not that I had a red flag at the time of signing the contract. We all know I didn't, but I just did have the forethought to say, I'm gonna go down that lane when we get there. So we did strike that. Don't give them the option for your next book. The one way I've heard to get around that is say, you can have the option for my next book if it's along the same theme as my first book.
Right. If it's like the same niche or the same subgenre.
And, you know, if we want to switch gears a little bit, I wanted to talk to you about some of the fun things I've been able to do marketing wise that I felt more interested and excited and empowered to take advantage of because it is my book now.
Absolutely. Yeah. Go ahead and share.
I have a great website. I'm lucky to have thepinkmarine.com. It was already up, strong and running, but I'm more motivated now to get more celebrity interviews and keep it updated and keep it interested because, again, I'm getting more of the profits. I launched a line of people responded so well to the book's cover. It's a row of army men with one pink guy in the center, and I'm wearing a t-shirt from it now. So in order to help veterans, especially, tell their stories, because I'm a Marine Corps veteran, and a lot of veterans, every veteran has a story, every person has a story, but a lot of veterans are suffering from PTSD and aren't sure how they're going to tell their story or if they want to tell their story. Or a lot of times, as you know, people just want to know, does anybody care about my story? We do. So I have a foundation, and the profits from the proceeds of the sales of the merchandise 100% go to that foundation for veterans writing projects. So that's I'm excited about, and that's tangential. I wear that t-shirt on every flight, everywhere I go, at every book event. I was just at Barnes & Noble in Austin 2 days ago, and you betcha I'm wearing that. I give them as gifts. People that are related to my book or are involved in my book somehow drink coffee cups with that on it, and that helps the social media conversation, and it all drives everybody back. Everything has to be recognizable. The conversation, as you know, it's sometimes hard to get a conversation going on about a book. It's hard to keep that conversation going, so you have to have relevant and new material. I published a free ebook of letters that I'd written home from boot camp. I put that out about 3 months after the first book came out. I don't know if you're familiar with that principle, but it's Seth Godin's principle. He calls it the Jell-O principle. When Jell-O first came out, it just sat on the shelves. Nobody was buying Jell-O because they didn't know what it was. And someone in the company had a great idea. Let's make a recipe book and with printed pictures and put it for free in the supermarket so people can take it and see what to do with Jell-O. Once that booklet was out, Jell-O started flying off the shelves. So Seth Godin says, if you have ancillary material for your book, publish that separately and always make it a free downloadable ebook. So right now there is the Pink Marine Unloaded, and I use Smashwords to put that available on all platforms. So that's a free ebook with photographs and letters that I wrote home. They weren't a fit for the book. Some of them are crazy and wild and not a fit for any book, but they're a fit for that book. And then I wrote some linky bits between the letters and then some excerpts from the book. And then I published that. It's not long. I don't think it's 50 pages long with a lot of photos. And that's my Jell-O principle book, Pink Unloaded. And it's a version of the cover of the book. I just have letters over my crotch like machine gun fire.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love it. Like, that's great. The Jell-O principle, definitely valuable. I think especially for nonfiction, but also for fiction as well. You know, if you look at successful authors, actually in both fiction and nonfiction, they always have something like that Jell-O principle, right? So, you know, for example, you know, Harry Potter, there's all these other like little books associated with it, right? Yeah. like any best-selling fiction series that sold billions of copies, they all have other books, smaller books. Sometimes they're cheap, sometimes they're free, that go along with it. For nonfiction, a lot of times authors will have like, a free download or a free checklist or a free something that, gets the readers more involved. And I think that's just a great idea, right? Because you're getting more exposure for yourself and you're connecting with your audience on a deeper level.
And it's something else to promote. You can promote your book 10 times a week, but if you have something else to promote that's related, believe me, there's a link to buy the book at the end of that free ebook. There's a link to get to my website. So that's sort of fresh material. The same thing with contributing to online publications. I published a piece to Huffington Post yesterday. I switched to electric cars. I live in LA. That's obviously something that a lot of us are doing. So I switched to an electric car, and I was on a comedian show where he drives around in people with cars, and we talk about my electric car. And the piece, it's been on YouTube for a couple of months. So I built it in, and in it, I made a book commercial in the video. That was up. The director did it, and it was really funny. I hold the book up and say something cheesy, and there's a sound effect, and worked it into the story. And so then after this presidential election, where one of the issues was climate change, does it exist or does it not exist? I was able to use that topical new subject, write about climate change, and then build my video that has the book in it into that Huffington Post piece. And about 30 minutes ago, the United Nations tweeted it to their 550,000 followers.
That's amazing.
So is somebody going to buy a book? I don't know, but that's a new opportunity for people to see the book that I didn't have 2 days ago.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. That's great. Yeah. I think you're really smart. Like, obviously you have a lot of experience in Hollywood, so you understand, the media and what's popular and what people are going to talk about and tweet about and so forth. But I love, I want to go back to something you said, like right at the beginning, you're talking about marketing. The first thing you said was that now that you're a self-published author, you have kind of more of a financial incentive to promote yourself, right? Because you're earning, instead of, $1 per book, let's say, $5 per book sale, right?
Right.
And I think this is a huge point that a lot of authors don't understand, is that the incentives are completely different when you're self-published versus traditionally published. So, if you're earning $5 every time you sell a book, that means you can afford to spend up to $5 and still make a profit or break even, right? And so, for example, like if you're printing T-shirts, well, if you're only earning 80 cents or $1 per book, you can't print many T-shirts unless you expect each of them to sell several books, right? So, it opens up this whole new world of possibility in terms of marketing, where you are able to spend a lot more money and at the same time earn more money. And that's how you scale a business, right? If you have a business where you only earn $1 every time you sell a product, that means your maximum marketing budget is $1 per product, right? It's so small. It's very hard to make a profit with such a small budget.
Yes. And, a lot of authors have to send books out. Well, if I send a book out, it costs me $5 to send that book out. But the potential reward is so great that I'm happy to do it. In the past, when I still was under the contract with that publisher, and I had to ask him to send a book out to someone, and he was going to charge me the full price of the book to send it. I wasn't about to pay full face value to send a book to someone that I didn't know what my ROI was going to be. But yes, exactly. It gives you a lot more control, and it's just, if anything, it makes sense. Spelled CENTS.
Right, for sure. Yeah, no, that's such a good point, right? So I don't think I can emphasize this point, is because if you're only earning $1 per book, like you literally can't afford to promote yourself in the vast majority of promotional opportunities that exist, right? Because you're earning so little, you just can't afford, right? There's no way you're going to make that money back.
And we're not even motivated for $1.
Exactly. Right. So I think by self-publishing, by taking that financial control back, by earning more profit margin, you're able to more wisely invest in your business, right? And more wisely invest in your brand, more wisely go out there and do interviews and do promotions and do marketing for yourself, because when you do make those sales, you're actually going to earn a good amount of money from it.
And another thing that I learned that's related to money is 2 years ago, when I'd started to incur some expenses in getting the book ready, and I went to file my taxes, my CPA, I get given her some of my book receipts. And she said, is your book published yet? And I said, no. She said, you save all receipts until your book is published. So you can have receipts and expenses for 20 years that you took to research your book, travel for your book, write your book. You don't file those every single year. You save all those up, and then the year that your book publishes and you get paid for that book, then you get to file all those receipts. That's unique.
Yeah, there's a whole lot of benefits to being a self-published author for sure.
Yeah, so this year I get to file like 4 years worth of receipts and travel all my book tour stuff. Hey, but also, you know, it's a fulfilling thing when I get, like I told you, I get to call the bookstores, and I've had the initial call a few times from bookstores where I'm setting things up. They've been like, oh, you know, you need to have your publisher call. We don't talk to authors. I'm like, I am the publisher. They're like, well, we don't take self-published books. I said, it's the publishing house. I'm calling from About Face Books. I'm all of it.
Yeah, you're in control now. You're the boss. That's good. Awesome. Well, thank you, Greg, for sharing your story with us. I know it's a very sad story, and, you know, I'm sorry about the heart attack and all the struggles and challenges you went through, but I think it's, you know, you shared some great lessons for our audience to, you know, things to avoid, and also some good things to model in terms of marketing. But
Tom, just like any great book, you turn the page and you find a happy ending.
Absolutely. So where can people find out more about you, Greg?
Go to my website, thepinkmarine.com, and I update that with videos. Like I said, I make the most money on an ebook, and I just told you that I drive an electric car, so I definitely promote the environment by supporting ebooks and downloads and not actually having the paper. But I'm like a lot of people, I still love a good book, a little actual book in my hands. But that's another reason I spend more time. When I have did we talk about Amazon Associates? Do all your listeners know to make sure to open an Amazon Associates account?
We haven't talked about it, no.
We have 2 minutes to talk about that?
Sure.
Make sure that you open an Amazon Associates account. So your book is going to be on Amazon. You can do the same thing for Barnes & Noble. You can do it for iTunes. You can do it for IndieBound. You can become an affiliate with those companies. So when you'll know what link to send. You'll get a special link to send to people. So when you go to my website, when you go to thepinkmarine.com and you click on Amazon, Amazon knows that you came through my website, and I get another $1 because you ordered the book that way. So that's really important to know, that you have to join all of these affiliate programs. And then when you do promote your book, when you do send an email to somebody about your book, or post it on Instagram, or post it on your Facebook page, or tweet it, the only link that you want to send is one that is your affiliate, so that any traffic that comes goes back to you.
Absolutely. That's a great point for sure. So actually in episode 92, we interviewed Jesse Lakes, who invented Genius, which is a special kind of link that uses Amazon Associates affiliate links and is actually geo-targeted. So anytime someone clicks on that link, they'll go to the exact right Amazon store or iTunes store based on what country they're in. So if they're in, you know, Australia, they'll go to the Australian store. If they're in Germany, they'll go to the Germany store. And you get paid as an affiliate with the Amazon Associates program as well when you use that. So that's definitely something to check out as well.
I'm going to listen to episode 92.
Cool. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Greg. It's great to see you again, and thanks for coming back.
Have a great day. Thanks a lot.
You too. Take care.